Roster Watch Nation, what is up, and welcome back to the Epic Roster Watch podcast. And if you're here on the YouTube channel, we appreciate you as well. I'm Cody Carpentier, joined by the Trash Man, no Alex Dunlap today. So we're going to talk a little Dynasty. And I've been asked a couple of times over the last, I would say, 10 days, Dynasty rookie rankings. And I said, rookie? I said, it's seasonal. What do you need rookie rankings for? And they said, wow, we got big rookie drafts on Labor Day weekend. I said, rookie draft should have been 4 months ago. Like, well, what's the move? And I said, all right, well, Trashman and I need to sit down. We need to talk about the updated rookie rankings over at RosterWatch.com. And last night or this morning, the update went through for the Dynasty rookie draft cheat sheet. If you want that up over at RosterWatch.com. Up to version 4.0 for Superflex, tight end premium, and for 1QB. So I know we've been talking a lot about the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet for seasonal, which you should go get at that QR code right there or at rosterwatch.com. But also, if you do have a rookie draft this weekend, you can go get the updated 1QB and Superflex rookie draft cheat sheets as well. Trash Man, you don't have a rookie draft this weekend.
I don't think so. I might. Who knows?
Rookie only draft, maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think I'm playing in that many leagues this year. Thank goodness.
In that many Dynasty leagues or in that many leagues, period? Because I was just asked that question last night out to getting dinner with some friends, and one of my buddies was like, how many leagues are you in this year? And I was like, it's like a fourth of what it was a couple of years ago. I got way overextended and had to reel that thing back in, but I think it's only like 13 this year.
I think I might be only in 2 or 3.
Man,
sweet spot. No, I long for the day that I won't be in any fantasy leagues.
Oh,
and I can just, so there's no bias. It's just straight knowledge.
That's fair. I had one 3 years ago, coming out of COVID, I was in 68. That was my max, and 68 lineup leagues. And as your face can about imagine, I was so overextended.
I want to interview your wife about something like, sounds like a saint.
Yeah, she is. She also played in one. She lasted for like 2 years in our high school league that she was. I think she got in like year 2 and played in year 2, year 3, and she was like, all right, I'm not doing this. I'm done. Yeah. She's like, I got DeAndre Hopkins. She had a good year, and then she got out. All right, whatever.
Yeah, I'm happy if whoever I'm dating, whoever doesn't get too chafed about me playing fantasy, and besides actually playing in it with me, that's something to be.
That's a little next level.
That's how you know she's the one, right?
Right, but she only lasted 2 years, so I guess I could have been like, hey, this relationship's done. But that's obviously, all right. Dynasty rookie rankings. You can go get the Dynasty Top 250 over at RosterWatch.com. It's a combination of both Trashman and I's rankings. You have mine, you have his, and you have the average of the two. But I want to talk about the rookies because we're heading into the season. We have some flag plants that we've been having, but we have some guys that have been cut, some guys that have changed teams. We got Isaiah Bond, who's freshly signed with the Cleveland Browns about a week and a half ago. And I made a big move on him. I mean, we both had him outside the top 250, and I made a big move on him this week inside the top 150. But as you look at like the top 10 rookies, the Genties, the Hamptons, the Quinshan Judkinses, the Travian Hendersons of the world, the Emeka Egbuka, is there anybody in this like top 10 conversation that like now 4 months post, when we were doing most of our rookie drafts, has maybe, jumped up into that top tier? We talked about like a group of 6, group of 7 back during rookie drafts. And now I sort of feel like it's a little bit of a bigger group.
I mean, well, I guess there's more potential now that the players are on teams and we're kind of getting an idea of the plan. But there are also some guys who we haven't really talked about, but that still, I think, have some major juice. Guys like Mason Taylor, who we haven't talked about a lot in the preseason, but by all accounts, looks to be the main pass catching tight end for the Jets. On a team where the quarterback situation's looking shakier than we thought. And we just don't have that many viable pass catching options in this offense, it would seem. So that's one player, Mason Taylor, who I think maybe deserves another look. It's getting into that top group. I mean, then we have guys like Jayden Blue are added to that list, Ollie Gordon, potentially Torrey Horton. There are a lot of guys who have outside shots to provide a lot of fantasy relevance, who could end up being dark horses for, being in the top 10 of rookies, as far as production goes.
I think that the Mason Taylor one's interesting. So cuts and waiver claims and stuff went through yesterday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday. And the Jets, for those keeping track at home, their receiving core right now is Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, who's banged up and questionable for week 1, Tyler Johnson. Yes, that Tyler Johnson. Arian Smith. And then they have Xavier Gibson and I think Irvin Charles, who I think that was the one. I don't even know he played in one of the other leagues. And then at tight end, it's Mason Taylor's a starter with Jeremy Ruckert and Stone Smart. 3 very capable tight ends, but Mason Taylor's been the clear-cut kind of leader in that room during the preseason this year. I think he'll continue to be. And like you said, I think he's going to be the number 2 receiving option. I don't know about how you would stack the Breece Hall conversation into that, if Breece Hall potentially gets ahead of Taylor in that pecking order, but nonetheless, that's a very consolidated target share in New York with Taylor, Wilson, and Breece Hall. One player that's in the top 15 for us right now that I have a little bit of question about, and he's top 100 still, and I'm thinking about bumping him out. There's actually 2 right here. Trey Harris and Jack Besh, 2 23-year-olds on the West Coast. Trey Harris, Chargers, Jack Besh, the Las Vegas Raiders. They are ranked, for me, 14th and 16th overall in the rookie rankings. If you go over and look at the Dynasty rankings, just ahead of Isaiah Bond, just ahead of Higgins, Jayden Higgins from Houston, Jalen Noel in Houston, Torrey Horton, Isaac Tesla, who is just outside the top 150, who had a very good preseason and caused the Detroit Lions to trade away Tim Patrick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm a little more nervous about Jack Besh. I wrote this up. I talked about this on the show like a week and a half ago, and I wrote about it on Twitter, being that I think he kind of fits into a Josh Palmer mold, which makes me want to bump him, considerably down below that Isaac Tesla conversation, which is about a 45 to 55 spot drop. And then Trey Harris, Trash Man, has been a really tough one because they go out and they get Keenan Allen, and we know they love Ladd, and they seemingly love Quentin Johnston, along with having this run-focused offense. And I just haven't heard enough about Trey Harris to be a top 100 dynasty pick right now, a top 100 dynasty ranked player, being a lot closer to Luther Burden than he is, the Jayden Higginses of the world. I just feel like that's maybe wrong.
I mean, I still don't know that Quentin Johnston is going to be that guy in LA, at least, for any length of time. And Harris offers a similar type of build, 6'2", 205 pounds, maybe a little lighter. But he's good down the field. He's physical. He's got a large catch radius. I think he offers maybe some more consistency than Quentin Johnston, a guy that we like coming in. Well, I like coming to the league, but kind of, disappeared in stints. So I still don't think that Johnston is necessarily has that role in that offense. And like you said, this is a more run-focused offense. So I think that maybe allows for more shots down the field. And I think if Harris can show that he has the hands, he can bring in the ball better, or at least even as good as Johnson on a more consistent basis. I think there is room for Harris to have fantasy viability in that offense.
So while we're in Los Angeles, I just want to bring up one player, and I want to pull up his keep trade cut to kind of get a valuation on him. Keandre Lambert-Smith. So right now, Quentin Johnston's dealing with a concussion, probably going to play week 1. Trey Harris is an undisclosed injury. Sounds like he's going to play. in week 1, but he's questionable. Otherwise, in that receiver room, like I said, it's Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey. They also have Darius Davis on the roster, who's been their punt return, kick return, gadget guy. But Keandre Lambert-Smith has had a couple of good games in the preseason, and he, for us, is up to the top 250. Keep trade cut, he's at 214. So if I ask you this Keandre Lambert-Smith question, coupled with that Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston conversation, is there an area where we can say he might belong? I'm looking at where I'm looking right now, Trashman, is Alec Amaner. I'm looking at Alec Pierce, Christian Watson, Demario Douglas. Would you take Keandre Lambert-Smith over any of those guys in Dynasty?
Probably not right now. And I think it's because it's I mean, the thing is where you can get them, where you're getting those players, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, these are not guys you're necessarily relying on for fantasy production on a week-to-week basis. So you could, they take a shot at him, but I don't know that I don't know. It doesn't really move the needle for me anyway. I mean, he's not a player I'm excited about in that offense. I mean, for me, Trey Harris is kind of they took him 55th overall.
Yeah.
So that's the guy who I think if they're going to give a shot to make a name for himself in that offense, it's going to be Harris first.
I think that's a good point, given the fact that they're still giving Quentin Johnston a chance. Is there any other receivers you want to talk about in this rookie group before we move to running back?
Let's see. I think
we got to talk about Bond before we move on. I forgot about that. We got to talk about Bond. But is there any other outside of Bond?
Maybe like a Jayden Higgins, Houston, who has an outside shot to work into that number 1 receiver role in Houston.
Number 2.
Sorry, yeah.
I was going to say.
I started thinking about Tank Dell for a moment, got carried away. But yeah, number 2 in that offense. I think he's got a shot to take that, to usurp Christian Kirk in that offense. I think he's a more explosive player at this point in their careers. I think he's a bigger target. So yeah, he's somebody who I think, and especially in that offense where, the running situation isn't what we thought it was going to be. I think maybe they're going to have to pass the ball, and they're probably going to be playing from behind a little bit. So I think Higgins definitely has some upside in that offense. I mean, if we're going to give Tank Dell, if he was healthy, as much shine as we would, I think it makes sense to take another look at Higgins for sure.
Like that. I think it's interesting that, he had a couple nice plays this preseason. I think he kind of represents this interesting not second tier, but like second grouping after you get through, the big names that everybody knows, from Genty all the way down to, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnsons of the world. You kind of have Trey Harris kind of in the middle of that, like between him and then Higgins right now in consensus. But I think Higgins is interesting. Like you said, if he's the number 2 in Houston, like it's the same reason that people aren't giving Christian Kirk the credit in seasonal drafts being the number 2 target for Stroud right now. It's the same reason that it kind of feels like Higgins is just kind of like, It also doesn't help that his partner in crime, Jalen Noel, who they both had 1,000 yards last year at Iowa State, is also with him in Houston. So I think that makes people feel a little bit more fuzzy, or not fuzzy. What's the word I'm looking for? Maybe it is fuzzy.
We can use fuzzy. Why not? I mean, I'm sure there's a way that it works in this context.
Yeah. Not Jayden Blue. Isaiah Bond immediately jumps into Cleveland, signs a 3-year contract for $3 million, guaranteed, goes to Cleveland, again, with a room of Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Jamari Thrash, DeAndre Carter, Gage Larvadan, and finds himself in the middle of it. And I would say if you just name off those players, like as much as I like Cedric Tillman, I think there's a role for him in a prototypical X role, probably the number 2 next to Judy. Bond has to almost step in as the 3 off the rip ahead of Jamari Thrash. Right?
Yeah, it kind of reminds, I mean, maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe
They cut
1.
Deontay
I
Johnson.
mean, like the thing is, like, as a player, kind of profiles similarly to me, at least, to Josh Downs, and the role that we've seen him have in Indianapolis, the role that we've seen him, well, the upside possibility we've seen with Downs at Indianapolis. He could be their number 1 receiver, on any given week, and I think Bond offers that kind of upside in Cleveland.
I mean, for those that forget, like, he was literally talking about running a 4.29. Like, his miles per hour number that came out was 23 and some change. And I don't know if you can hear that plane in the background, but there's like a military plane going over my apartment right now.
That's all you.
It's like a little much. I'm right next to the Citadel, so they do like flyover stuff all the time. But anyway, I think that Isaiah Bond, like what he brings is like a dynamo factor, not quite to the Xavier Worthy side of things. He's fast like that, but he's not that fast, obviously. But he's a guy that they can play all over the formation, whether it's out wide in the slot or moving him around the formation in like these jet motion plays, end arounds, and things of that nature, which is a factor that I don't think Cleveland really has. Also, that like you look at the offense, there's not really a ton of speed. Like it's just kind of a lame duck, mediocre. Jerry Jeudy's a great route runner, not fast. Cedric Tillman's a big lumbering body, not that fast. Jamari Thrash runs like a 4.55. Like you look at the backfield, like Sampson's quick, but he's not, a 4.3 guy. Like Bond is the one speed piece to this offense. So when I see he signs a 3-year, $3 million guaranteed contract, which is the equivalent of a end of the second, early third round draft pick deal, it makes me immediately lump him up into that conversation with the Besh, Higgins, Knowles of the world. Is that jumping the shark? Because that's like going from outside the top 250, having like a questionable off-field situation at your hand, and then all of a sudden just getting we could lump this into the Quinshan Judkins conversation, but lumping these things together, it has to mean something for Dynasty.
I mean, just with his upside, with kind of unintimidating receiving core there in Cleveland, I think there's definitely room for Bond to leapfrog any one of these guys at some point in the season. And we have to think that Cleveland's probably going to be playing from behind a lot. Going to need to have some big plays, some big splashy plays down the stretch. And I think Bond could be that guy for them. We talk about a downfield kind of stretcher burner. Bond is that guy, profiles to be that guy, playmaker. So, yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what this offense does. It's not a sexy offense. It's not one I'm excited to take apart, to have a part of really outside of the run game, just because I think they're probably going to run the hell out of the ball. But I think Bond definitely deserves consideration with some of these other players we just mentioned.
All right, I'm going to give you 3 quick trades, rapid fire question here with Bond. 3 trades that happened in the last 48 hours, PPR 12-team leagues. Ollie Gordon and Isaiah Bond were traded for Trey Benson. Or the other way around, Benson was traded for those 2.
I mean, I would like to be on the side of the trade that gets both of those players.
Christian McCaffrey, this is an interesting one, was traded for Isaiah Bond and a 2026 first-round pick.
Okay. Maybe they know something we don't know.
I mean, it seems light, but McCaffrey is 29.
He is 29.
That has to be part of the factor, obviously.
Wow. That's somebody who likes to take risks, and it's probably worked out to them up to this point. So I'm. It sounds a little bit much to me, but then again, Chris McCaffrey, he's played full season, 2 out of the last 7 seasons. So maybe this is somebody who's been burned by McCaffrey before.
All right. Isaiah Bond or a 2027 second?
Oh, Bond. Give me Bond.
That's good. That 27 class is going to be nasty, but I think you're right. I think that's right.
Bird in the hand, man.
Bird in the hand. All right, running backs. Let's get through some running backs quick. We've almost got 20 minutes in already. Let's go to the running backs quick. Let's start with this one. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt or Bill. We've been talking about him a lot on the seasonal stuff, but for Dynasty, when you're talking about Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, age 24 in Washington, sent Brian Robinson packing. Eckler contract runs out at the end of the year. Rodriguez contract runs out at the end of the year. Bill's going to be the only contracted running back on the roster, late round pick. This is the situation that you might think, yep, next year Washington's going to go ahead and use a top 100 pick on a running back, and it's going to swindle the Krosky Merritt stuff. But it seems to have worked in Kansas City for Isaiah Pacheco. Where do you sit with Krosky Merritt? Is he worthy of a top 150 slot in Dynasty at the running back position? Like that's, up to the Charbonnet, Ramondre, Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter. Like, are we up into that conversation?
I mean, I think he has to be up there with Ramondre at least because they're kind of the same player in some respects. Kind of unimpressive physically, at least. I mean, not really dynamic, but grinders. But Bill's got fewer years under his belt, less mileage. So that bodes well for him in Dynasty. Yeah, I need to boost him up in my rankings for sure. Thing is, like, I don't want to get him too high just because he's not a special player.
Yep.
He's in a great position. He's got a great opportunity ahead of him, but he's not somebody that I'm really excited about, as an actual athlete, as to see out on the field, to see, I'm not really banking on to break big plays or do really more than he's asked to do. He could be asked to do a lot this season, but yeah, I think in the future they're probably going to look for help elsewhere.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking I'm most worried about getting over skis potentially on Krosky Merritt, because we think we love him as, like, the story's great, player's good, and he's got a slashing style that should work well with Eckler and with Rodriguez. But as that solo guy, like, the upside definitely feels like it's a little bit, hampered. Whereas I think that there's more upside into Jarquez Hunter potentially at the current stage of the conversation. I think that slots him in right there at the end of round 2 in Dynasty rankings. But people, I mean, that's around the Higgins, Knoll, Besh, Bond, Jarquez Hunter, Mason Taylor. That's around that whole conversation. So that's really going to be in the eye of the beholder when you're drafting in those rookie drafts this weekend. Do you have any other running backs potentially moving or anything ahead of the season kicking off next week in Dynasty?
I mean, I think I need to take another look at Rashard Smith out of KC. I feel like we talked about Pacheco, who's not really I want to say he's not a special player. I guess he's kind of proven to be a little bit special, at least in that team, but he's not really great pass catcher. He's not really fast. He's a powerful back, and he gets the job done. But I think Rashard Smith offers some of that passing game action that we've seen Kansas City Chiefs running backs in the past get a little action with guys like Jerick McKinnon, who is, was so viable during the playoffs. Kareem Hunt. I think Rashard Smith kind of is, the cloth is cut similar to those guys. So I feel like Smith is somebody I want to take another good look at because he could potentially get some action, some significant action in that Kansas City offense.
Quietly too. Like that's like the Elijah Mitchell thing's interesting and all, but Carson Steele was like one of their darling last year, right? Going into the season, people were like, "Oh, Carson Steele's going to get this workload in week 1 because there's injuries." Nah, it didn't quite happen. But the Brashard Smith angle as a pass catcher is much different, having that receiving background in college. Last one I want to touch on is Quinshan Judkins, because I think this is going to be the biggest question people drafting this weekend are going to have. Is when do you feel comfortable drafting Quinshan Judkins? Because if he was healthy and he's the starting running back in Cleveland right now, I think you don't have a question. It's like, yeah, he's a top 7 pick in non-premium leagues, and you pick him whenever you feel comfortable or whenever the cheat sheet tells you to. Right now, we're in a spot where he still has not signed, at least time of airing, 2:50 Eastern time, Wednesday, August 27th. He has not signed. And so with that into account, I don't personally feel like you can take him ahead of like the Matthew Golden, Luther Burdens right now. I don't feel comfortable enough with that because it's still off-field stuff. He still has not signed a contract, and he's still playing with Dylan Sampson, relinquishing time. Jerome Ford is still there. They cut Pierce Strong. They signed through, they claimed off waivers Raheem Rocket Sanders, the other rookie that was with the Chargers all camp. So they have 3 on the roster right now.
But the thing is, Judkins does everything that each one of those guys is best at doing. So like,
yeah,
I think he's the better prospect for fantasy. Going into the draft, he was maybe my favorite running back, just with this all-around package, what you're getting in a running back for Judkins. So I would probably take him above Burden just because that offense, as good as Burden is, those are some other good receivers in that offense. So then we don't know what that pecking order is going to be. We don't know if that offense is going to be any good. But Judkins, if he is the starter there for Cleveland, which for all intents and purposes he should be, I just don't. To me, that's not a similar value. I don't think you're getting a similar value there.
This is Anthony Richardson. You're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.